the Equal Employment for All Act is an important bill, and I hear the arguments made in opposition. But the fact is, in this economy, which is in a recession, regardless of what any person might say or group, we are in a recession, and it's difficult to find jobs right now. And when some employers use credit checks, for a lot of people, particularly minorities, it makes it almost impossible to get a job. The use of credit checks to determine employment is a growing trend, but a dangerous trend. And while some submit that it's an effective tool, that business must find it effective, I would submit to you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, there's no way business can know it's effective, because if they don't give a person a job because of a bad credit score, how do they know that was a bad employee? They never hire anybody that had a bad credit score if they use that as the determining factor not to hire them. So they never know. They hire the other guy or the other woman. It's unfortunate that in our society, a high percentage of the people with bad credit scores are minorities, and I'll get to that in a minute. In my district, 1 in 10 people are unemployed. My district has got a very high African-American population. Among African-Americans, it's more like 1 in 5. And throughout the nation, we see those same types of statistics. While in the nation, it's 9.6% unemployment, among African-Americans, it's 16.3%, and Latinos, it's 10.4%. One of the reasons credit checks contributes to the high unemployment among African Americans and Latinos, because they have not had a history of wealth in the country. That's what's known, gentlemen, as institutional racism. It's not racism on the up front. I'm not going to hire you because you're African American or you're Latino, or I'm not going to hire you because you're a woman. It's the history of our nation and what goes into it and the work product. And when you're African American and your families started out as slaves, from 1865 before, you didn't have a chance to build up wealth. Caucasians did. So you're starting behind. Jim Crow laws, you're still not getting jobs and opportunities, and you're getting to go to separate Plessy versus Ferguson schools. That means you're still in the hole. Whites are going to the good schools and getting the good books and getting the opportunity blacks aren't. So whites build up a history of having money, family wealth, passed on, the old family farm that we're trying to protect through inheritance laws, make sure we get the whole family farm and not just 60% of it. And so those folks have got money. They can, if they lose their job in this economy, and a lot of people have lost their jobs because they just cut back. FedEx cut off 10%. Well, if you're Caucasian and your family built up some wealth from having some friends who you could sell real estate to and get a better 6% of a higher, more expensive house than somebody that's poor that doesn't have as many friends with those wealthy houses, or stockbroker contacts that you know from the country club or whatever, you don't have accumulated wealth to help you through bad times. So you're more likely to have a bad credit score. The effect of that is African Americans, Latinos, others who have immigrated to this country and haven't had wealth built up, that's what's called institutional racism. It's something that's not racism on the front, it's something that just happens through the institution of what goes on in this nation. So it's there, regardless if one does it on the front or doesn't even realize that it's something that's just part of the system. 43% of all employers admit to performing credit checks, despite there's no study that says it's effective. Eric Rosenberg with TransUnion said in a hearing in Oregon during sworn testimony, his company has zero statistical evidence to document that employees with bad credit checks are any more likely to steal or commit fraud than workers with perfect credit. A study at Eastern Kentucky said the same thing. It's highlighted in the Hill in an article this morning about these studies. Nothing shows it's effective. And I would submit to you, some would say, oh, somebody's going to be more of a risk. Well, there's exceptions for financial situations, but if somebody has got a bad credit rating and they want a job, that I would submit to you, once they get that job, they're less likely to commit any type of fraud than anybody else because they want that job. They're seeking a job and they want to pay off their bills and earn a living. So they want to keep that job, and they not only not get arrested, but keep that job. I think they're going to be extra good employees. It's just simply, there's no basis to show that it's an effective tool, and I think it's used in a de facto way to discriminate against people, whether it's intended to or not. This legislation has been endorsed by the NAACP, the National Organization for Women, the National Consumer Law Center, the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, the National Association of Consumer Advocates Unite Here, National Employment Law Project, U.S. Employers Interest Research Group, AFL-CIO, and Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. The law is simple. It says people should have a chance. Some would say a second chance. I would say it's not even a second chance because they've done nothing wrong. But in show business, people get second chances all the time. in business they do. And if you think a credit check really determines whether you're going to be trustworthy, ask Sir Alan Stanford of Stanford Financial and all of his people. And what's the boy's name up in New York that ripped everybody off? Madoff, Bernie Madoff. They had great credit ratings. It's hard to tell somebody who's a crook and isn't by credit ratings. And I would submit a hard-working person with a bad credit rating because of this society wants a job is a better risk than somebody else. And I think they want to get that job and keep it to pay off their bills. I appreciate the committee's time, and I appreciate the red light because I've been on the other side of it. And I thank you for the opportunity to give this testimony.